A term that has not surfaced widely in many years, victory gardens are now having a comeback in 2020. War gardening, or victory gardens, first appeared during the World Wars in the early 1900s. The government strongly encouraged its homebound population to utilize their properties by planting vegetable gardens for the cause. The more produce that could be grown by Canadians in their front yards, vacant lots, and former flower gardens, the more food, soldiers, and munitions that could be shipped to Canada's allies overseas. This was because victory gardening helped to meet existing export commitments, but it also freed trains and trucks to move other strategic goods instead of food. At its peak in 1944, it was estimated that more than 209,000 victory gardens were in operation nationwide, producing 57,000 tons of vegetables. So why this sudden resurgence now? The global pandemic currently headlining news is not one of war between nations, but a war of all nations against a virus. In Canada, early stockpiling and hoarding resulted in shortages of supplies for frontline healthcare workers and food shortages for those more vulnerable. Much of our food is imported from areas that have been hit by the pandemic, and before our own growing season has begun, the food produced locally is heavily dependent on foreign workers now struggling to cross borders. Luckily for Canadians, this has occurred at a time when planting a garden and starting seeds takes place, so it is a feasible effort for many. Movements have begun encouraging residents of Toronto to produce more than what they need in order to share the wealth. This is occurring by converting sidewalk book libraries into seed surplus sharing, starting and giving away or trading surplus seedlings, and in time, sharing the harvest of these gardens. Others find themselves with additional time at home due to physical distancing and can finally attempt gardening. Victory gardens then, and still today, come from a position of affluence. Community gardens have been closed by municipal governments to maintain physical distancing. Urban density has boomed since the war, leaving many without access to any earth of their own. Food deserts were an ongoing concern before healthcare pandemics reached our city, but grocery store food shortages highlighted this issue further. A link to food deserts in Toronto is linked below. Victory gardens provide much more than food for its caretakers. They provide a diversion, a feeling of participation and control in times of fear and concern. They give a focus and a reason to learn and try, and they can be grown regardless of age, gender, or race. Modern technology, along with platforms such as Pinterest and Facebook, share creativity for those with less than ideal conditions, so that gardening can be performed indoors, on balconies, and in various forms of containers. Will you be growing this year?